top product-based companies offers you CTC around 60 to 70. So opting for electronics was just a random decision. In my college, there were zero placements, but when you go with the off-campus drive, there are 1,500 to 2,000 students and you have to compete with them. I was working with AWS in Publicis Sapient, so I got certified in AWS. Even I tried for referral, but that two didn't work. Media also had 4 rounds of interview.
Many people who feel stuck in the service-based company and desperately want to switch in the product-based companies, specifically for the data engineering job profile, I must say this is not going to be a piece of cake, because these kind of folks definitely go through with multiple challenges during this switch and transition. Plus, you have to come up with the proper preparation, proper planning, your interview schedules. First of all, your resume also has to get selected in the product based companies, like all the top tier 1, tier 2 product based companies. So you have to take care of all these things, and definitely a good experience with good project and practical knowledge. And in this podcast, this is exactly what we are going to discuss with our guest speaker, because she has done this kind of switch, moving out from a service to product based company for the data engineering profile. So she will be sharing all her experience with us today, how she started preparing, what kind of roadmap did she follow, and how the interview process looks like, end-to-end interview round wise in these product based companies, and what kind of challenges you may come up with, CV shortlisted, what kind of projects you should work, what is the modern tech stack they are following, many other informative experiences along with the salary insights as well. So make sure to watch this podcast till the very end and like it in the big numbers to help other aspiring data engineers with such experiences. If you are new to the channel, then make sure to press the subscribe button and hit the notification icon. And after the long wait of 4-5 months, and after helping many aspiring data engineers to crack high packages across the globe for the data engineer role, like the 2 CR package, 1 CR package, 80 LPA, 75 LPA, finally we are starting the new batch, which is Data Engineering 4.0 with AWS. And again, this is going to be a live classroom batch for all the aspiring data engineers. You don't need any kind of prerequisite, doesn't matter what kind of background you are coming from. This will be a complete basic to advanced 3 months of bootcamp, all live classes. And in this bootcamp, I will take you from zero to hero journey of the data engineering from the very basic. You just need to know a very basic Python, which you can cover on your own in a week itself. Live classes are going to start from 9th of November. So admissions are open, and only for few seats we have started the early bird offer. So you can use a coupon code FIRST50, and starting 50 users will be getting this amazing exclusive early bird offer on the Data Engineering 4.0 with AWS Bootcamp. In this bootcamp, apart from the modern tech stack like the Snowflake, Databricks, Kafka, Airflow, BigQuery, GCP, and complete AWS cloud agnostic project, I have added few more important add-ons like the Apache Flink for real-time stream data processing, and the Iceberg and Apache Hudi, and many cool projects around these tech stack. So this is what you will be getting in this new edition of the Data Engineering Bootcamp, and the exposure of more than 12 plus industry grade projects end to end, including the deployment and many projects around the GCP and AWS agnostic data pipelines as well. You will be getting dedicated placement assistance here, including the daily and regular job posting, plus dedicated resume and LinkedIn profile building sessions, personalized one-on-one sessions with me, continuous offline doubt support on the private Discord groups, plus the doubt support after the live classes itself. And all these things at a very affordable price with quality content, which will help you to kickstart your journey in the data engineering and crack your dream salary package as well. The enrollment link has been given in the description, or you can visit www.growdataskills.com to join this bootcamp, and make sure to use the early bird offer, applicable only for first 50 users. So use this code FIRST50. And if you have any doubt or query, you can always call or drop a WhatsApp message on this number. We will instantly resolve your query. So what are you waiting for? Enroll right now, and I will see you in the live classes. Alright, so thank you so much, Bhakti, for joining me in this podcast. I know we were planning for this since long time, and finally it is happening. So really excited for it. But it would be really good if you can give a short introduction to our audience, anything about yourself, education, companies, it would be good.
Thanks, Shashank, for inviting me to the podcast. So I'll just give you a just brief introduction about myself. My name is Bhakti Bhanushali. I have done my engineering in electronics and telecommunication. Previously, I have worked with L&T Infotech, Publicis Sapient, and currently working with Expedia Group as a data engineer.
So share something about your college life. How was it? As usual, like other students who had probably no clue during their college time what they are or what they will be looking for, since you did your BTech in the electronics. So what were your plans that time? Did you actually think for the ITCS and all? And what about your first job and first salary?
Yeah. So opting for electronics was just a random decision because I wasn't aware or I didn't have any guidance to which stream to pursue in engineering. So it was just a random decision. But when I started my engineering, that time I realized that I'm not at all interested in electronics, analog devices, digital devices. So, but since I just opted it, so I have to do it. But talking about the college life, it was fun. Apart from learning, we did everything because in normal engineering college, I'm not talking about IITs and NITs, but in normal engineering colleges, you don't focus, like the staff don't focus more on the practical thing, but it just they focus on the theoretical part. And we used to clear up our exams very easily because we used to just go through the last 4 years of question papers and that's it. So college life was just interesting, but it was not a good part when I talk about learning thing.
And what about your first job? Like, did you get through a campus placement, and how did it all started?
So in my college there were zero placements, so I have only to figure it out that how I can get into the market. Since I was not interested in electronics, so I had to like get into tech. But since I was not from the computer background as well, and these service-based companies, when I talk about service-based such as Accenture, Capgemini, Infosys, they do hire freshers from all streams, but you should have a basic understanding of programming, any programming language. And I wasn't knowing anything about it, so I just opted for basic Java classes, and then I set for various off-campus drives, and got rejected many times, but eventually got hired in L&T Infotech as a graduate engineer training.
How much time it took? Let's say you graduated in the month X. How many months it took for you to get your first job?
Yeah, it took me around 8 months because of starting initially 3 months I was just going to Java classes just to get the understanding of programming, basics of programming language, the logic behind it, our basic stuff, right? But since the competition was high, because when it comes to the placement thing, when the companies come to your colleges, you have to compete with just 200 to 300 students. But when you go with the off-campus drive, there are 1500 to 2000 students, and you have to compete with them. Apart from that, you are like from electronics background, so you are like you don't have any idea about programming. And when the computer students are also sitting for the this off-campus drive, it's very really hard to compete with them. But eventually, after multiple rejections, I got into L&T Infotech.
So how much they were paying at that time?
Initially, they paid me around 3.18 LPA. It's the starting you usually
Just
get
like
this much
TCS,
only.
just like TCS.
Yeah,
Infosys.
just like TCS, Accenture, they paid around 3.18.
Started as a software engineer. So when did you hear about the data domain, data engineering very, very specifically, right? As like you have already explained, you had no background, right? Zero background in it. And when did you decide, yes, this is the job profile which I would like to pursue in my career?
That's an interesting question. So when I got hired into L&T Infotech, you are not allowed, or you don't get that kind of liberty to choose which domain you want to go into. These companies, these service-based companies, have a training period for around 2 to 3 months, and you get into that training period, and then they tag you into some project. So when I got hired into L&T Infotech, there were 3 batches they created. One was Java testing, and the third one was BIDW. Now I was eagerly waiting to get into Java, and it's just random. Like you are not allowed to choose it; they will choose it for you. But eventually, I didn't got Java. I was very much disappointed because I don't wanted to go into testing, and I wasn't aware about BIDW. So at that point of time, BIDW was like very new thing. It was business intelligence data warehousing, and I didn't heard from anyone what is this stream about, what is this domain about. So during the first day of training, when I got into this batch, the first question I asked my training sir that what is this BIDW. At that point of time, I got introduced to big data, data warehousing, data analytics, and from that point onwards, when I got deep into it, I understand what's the value of this particular domain and how emerging this domain is. So at that point of time, my interest got like it increased into this domain, and at that point of time I thought of pursuing this as my career.
Your initial phase was much more knowing about the BI, data warehousing, data analytics, but data engineering is something which is more engineering oriented, right? As you said, your fear for Java maybe in the initial days, and then getting more into the databases, APIs, fetching the data here and there. So what was that borderline when this transition actually shifted from analytics to engineering side?
So during the training period, they train 1 month particularly on just SQL, like advanced SQL, basic SQL. They train all the students into that, and then they start with the basic big data concepts, fundamentals, just a basic thing, fundamental thing only, Hadoop, Spark, Hive, Pig, and some data warehousing concepts. But it's just a like basic theoretical training, and not like you don't get to do much hands-on on that. But when I got tagged into one of the project in L&T Infotech, at that point of time, I was purely into core data engineering. And at that time, I understood the real meaning of data engineering, where you have to design or create the systems for our data to flow like to the target user. So yeah, that was it.
So did you actually like it, or you had a 50-50 doubt, okay, maybe after some time I will just skip it and I will just look out for the analytics opportunities?
No, actually I really liked it because there in the proper data engineering, when I deal with the Spark and the Hive fundamentals, and when at that point of time I was actually coding in Spark, so it was quite interesting to me, and I knew why I was doing it. So the main idea about data engineering is not of creating the systems, but you should understand what's the value behind the data we are delivering. And when you understand that, it becomes more interesting that why are you designing it, why are you creating these pipelines. So yeah, I was like very much interested into it.
So once you plan to pursue data engineering, how did you prepare a concrete learning roadmap for you, considering the industry required skill set, not just a very I don't say like a old school, but not sticking yourself for Python, SQL, and just Spark. So how did you do that?
So when I talk about moving from like service based to product based, the interview process are quite different. Like it's really very different because in service based, they will ask you the fundamentals. They will ask you like basic questions, basic programming questions. But when you talk about the product based companies like Expedia, they want to know the depth of the technical knowledge you have. So when you say about Spark, how much Spark do you know? It's just the basic fundamentals or basic definitions, or have you applied that learning into your projects? So they try to like figure it out in your interviews. Mostly they will, I'm just talking about Spark. If I talk about that, they will just get deep down into how you're doing the performance tuning, how you're doing optimization. Now coming to the roadmap, when you want to get into the product base, the interview process is quite like really very different. So fundamentals are important. As I said, you have to be very well versed into SQL, any programming language you like, maybe Java, Scala, Python, anything. You have to know about system designs. You should be very well aware about how to design a system. This thing I wasn't aware, but when I was preparing for product-based companies, I started learning about system design. And it's better any of the cloud services. It's like a plus point when you get into these companies. So there are like 4 to 5 things I started. First, I started with SQL. Basics I already knew because I was already working, but when it comes to advanced SQL, it's like literally little tough. So I started solving questions on Lead Code, HackerRank, the advanced one, so that you get a variety of questions and you know how to deal with it, because you have a very limited time to solve. You don't get much time to solve questions, so need to understand how to approach a problem. So SQL, you have to be well versed. Coming to any programming language, that also I started doing on Lead Code and HackerRank. Fundamentals of big data you should know, but get deep into the big data technologies. When I tell about deep into, that means you have to have a approaches that you can really solve it. For example, if you talk about Spark, you should know everything about how to use it. When you are given a problem statement, how would you approach a problem? So they will test that. You have to do that. And the AWS, I was working with AWS in Publicis Sapient, so I got certified in AWS. And my company was also using it, so it helped me to understand how the cloud services work. So that was a plus point for me. And another part is system design. So this system design, it's very important, because in service based companies you are not asked about system design questions, but in product based, even though you are not designing a system when you come into that role, but still you should be aware of that, how things works, and you should know it.
You mentioned about the cloud part. So obviously Azure is there, GCP is there, AWS is there. So there is a lots of debate and fight that no, companies are demanding Azure more, so I should focus more on the Azure side. And their question is what if I only know AWS? Any other company will prefer me for the interviews. They might be working on Azure or the GCP. How much the programming side, like the DSA, are we supposed to get to that level of competitive programming to crack data engineering role, or just easy medium works fine?
So coming to the services, there is no particular service you should know. You can take any cloud services, and it's not a mandatory thing that if a company is working, for example, if company is working for Azure and you know AWS, but still you know the fundamental how the cloud services work, because at the end of the day it's the same thing, but the naming is different. AWS might be using some another naming convention, and the Azure is doing, but at the back end, for databases, they might be using another service, AWS might be using another service. For CDN, Azure will be using some another service, AWS will be using some another service. But at the end of the day, they all are same. You should at least have, if you know any of the cloud service, it's fine, but it's not a compulsion thing that company won't hire you if you don't know that particular service which they are using.
Got it.
And coming to the another question about DSA, so yeah, it's important, but it depends upon the level you get into it. For example, when I was trying for the other product based companies, they specifically targeted on the DSA. It's some companies do particularly target on the DSA, but some companies don't. Just a basic programming you should know. For Expedia, they just tested that am I able to code, and am I able to create a logic around it? That was it. But there are companies like Uber, Atlassian, they specifically target properly on the DSA, even though you are sitting for the data engineering.
There is lots of hype about the Databricks, Snowflake, these kind of tools and tech frameworks as well in the industry. So did you also focus on these things while preparing yourself, or without that one itself you were able to crack these good companies?
No, I didn't focus on that thing, because I was very well aware about the fact that I should have my fundamentals very strong, and on top of that, it's a cherry on the cake, but know your basics very well so that you can easily crack the interviews. It's just the other technologies which is coming into market. It's good to know, but you should be very well aware about your own basic data engineering stuff.
You switch from service based to product based company Expedia. Did you face any challenge during this transition? It could be anything, product based expectation might be different. Maybe you are stuck because of your own notice period. Maybe you are stuck because of the service based company tag. anything you face, please let our viewers know about it, and how did you overcome those things?
So yeah, I did face a little bit of challenges because the resume doesn't get shortlisted easily when you come from the service-based companies. So you have to make your resume very strong. So I was aware of the fact because I had many of my friends working in big product-based companies like Google, Netflix. So I got tips from them that how to make your resume strong. And side by side, I was doing various certifications related to AWS that made my resume a little bit elevated to bypass through this product based ATS system. So that was it. And the another thing was I had to prepare rigorously about for these product based companies because it's not a cakewalk when you try to get into these companies. Their interview process are really very different and very difficult when it comes to the hiring process, because they don't want to hire anybody come having a basic knowledge. They want to know that whether you have that ability and whether you can really solve big problems. So SQL, Python, Spark, basic thing I was well aware, but I wasn't aware about the system design. So I was going through some of the YouTube videos that how should we approach a system design problem, and also I did the AWS certification. There, my 60 to 70% of system design concepts got covered because. This particular certification helps you to understand from the scratch that how the systems are, how this AWS services work. So at the back end, it was all related only to system design. On top of that, I watched some YouTube videos to get understanding how to approach a system design problem. So yeah, the system design thing was a difficult challenge or difficult path, and the resume thing.
What is the notice period at Sapient like?
It was 60 days.
60
and when
days.
I was trying to switch from Sapient to another companies like product-based companies, I was very well with that idea that I won't give any interviews for the service-based company because my target was to get into product base. So I did very limited interviews. I just did 2 interviews with
Wow.
one with Visa and one with Expedia. So I got both the offers, but then I tried to go with Expedia because it was having a better they were working on better technologies, better tech stack, and also the culture was great.
How did you get the interview calls as well from these companies? Like, there are different channels to apply. Obviously, referral is there, career page is there, cold emailing is there. So from your perspective, which thing worked out really well and helped you to get these kind of interview calls?
Okay, so I did apply for multiple companies directly through their career website. There are other ways also. Like I tried cold emailing also to them, but that didn't work. Even I tried for referral, but that too didn't work. So I applied to Visa and Expedia directly from the career page, and within a day I got a call for their interview process. So maybe my resume felt appealing to them, and that's why they started with the interview process. But yeah, there are various ways that you can do it. As you said, cold emailing, asking for a referral, directly applying from the career page. But when you try to apply from the career page, make sure your resume is very neat, clear, and crisp. Don't add so much of information, just add to the point.
Since you have interviewed at the Expedia and the Visa, so at your experience level, what was the overall interview process? Like, if you can break it down round by round, that will be helpful, along with the topics or questions, if you remember. Not exact questions, but if you can help them with the topic and what kind of questions they were asking in each round.
So as I said, I just gave interviews for 2 companies. Let's start with the Visa. They have the total 4 rounds. The final round was normal tech managerial, but the first 3 rounds were purely technical. So in the first round, they wanted to understand what kind of projects I was working on, how did I approach some basic Spark tuning problems, and the basic of SQL. Like they do focus on window functions and all. So please guys, don't underestimate the window functions, because nowadays the companies are more focusing questions on that. Then I was asked about Spark coding question. So you can use PySpark or Scala Spark as you are in any of the thing you're comfortable at. And they tried to ask me more on the analytics part, like how I was doing it. I had a basic idea, but they wanted more about analytics because the part which they were hiring me into, like the pod they were hiring into, it was mostly related to analytics. So the first round was pretty much that. The second round was also, but they were diving much deeper into the data engineering stuff, like data modeling, data warehousing, all that stuff. And also I got to ask that, like they also asked me one Spark coding question as well. And the third interview was also related to one programming question. It was I don't remember the exact question, but it was, I think, related to string manipulation. So I just did it in Python. And third round was also mostly related to technical only. They were most focusing on the Spark and Hive part only. And the fourth was purely managerial round. They just check the whether you are fit into the team, behavioral aspects, and all that stuff.
Okay.
Now coming to Expedia also had 4 rounds of interview. The first round was purely on SQL and the Spark coding question. For the Spark, they gave me some log data, and I had to extract from the log data. I had to extract the lines which mentions the error lines with the timestamp. So that was the question. SQL also, there was some question related to lead and lag. So yeah, and since I did a AWS certification, so they asked me about the various services about related to AWS, like RDS, Lambda, VPC, S3. So that was the first round of interview. The second round of interview was related to the programming. They also gave me the string manipulation question only, and SQL, and they were looking at how you will deal with the duplicates of data, mostly related to data engineering problems. They wanted to see that. The third round was very interesting round. It was related to your knowledge about business acumen and how you apply the technical skills if you get any business problem. So yeah, they try to test that, and it was a very interesting round. It was for 1 hour long. But there I was asked all the concepts related to system design. I wasn't asked to draw the components of the system design, but I was expected to answer and to understand, to know like how much I know about the concept. So there I was asked the CAP theorem, the scaling problem, the Redis, Memcache, all that stuff I was being asked. And it was an interesting thing. So this was like a very important round which I would say. And yeah, the AWS certification really helped me to crack this round. And the fourth was tech managerial round, basic technical questions, and the team fitment round, behavioral questions I was asked.
One interesting fact you like about the data engineering, and one boring fact which you never like to do when you are working on any data engineering project.
So one interesting thing I would talk about, like when you know that there is an issue with the data, like user was expecting some kind of data and you are not delivering that kind of data. So when you find some issue in your production data or any data, you have to like dig deep down into that, like where is the problem, and you have to figure out the RCA. So that's an interesting thing, like I really like about data engineering, because when you figure it out that yeah, this is the part like where the problem is arising. So that's the interesting part I love about data engineering. The boring part I really don't like about data engineering. The boring part is the DevOps thing, because you have to like do little bit of DevOps also when you are designing the pipelines and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit of boring thing to me.
Like the whole cluster setup, CI/CD, Spinnaker pipeline, and all that.
Yeah.
I see. At your experience level, how much CTC we can expect from these type of companies? Because the pattern of the CTC in these companies involves multiple components like base, stocks, joining bonus, and multiple other benefits. So if you can break it down with some average numbers, what you have seen, that would be helpful, and it will help them to negotiate. Else they will be lowballed by the recruiters, and they might end up getting less salary.
So when it comes to salaries, I wouldn't give you the exact number, but I have seen like the for around 4 to 5 years of experience, this top product-based companies offers you CTC around 60 to 70, depending. Like there are various factors involved in it. You don't get exact like the in hand, but there are various components to it. I've seen some people that going around 80 to 90 also. There are like 3 to 4 components to it. The base salary, which is your in-hand salary, which you get. The another is the signing bonus you get when you join a company. These product-based companies also provide you RSUs, that is stocks, over the period of like 4 years or 3 years, depending upon company to company. They have like different vesting cycles, and the fourth is the performance bonus, and it also depends on the company to company. Like some companies would provide you around 10 to 15% of performance bonus, and some would around 7 to 8%. Yeah.
Awesome. So this was really interesting, Bhakti, and I would say very, very informative. You have touched upon every single detail which any aspiring data engineer should know about, be it the preparation, tech stack, interview rounds, everything. You have break it down in the most simplest manner. So really, really thanks from my side and from the entire audience side that you came here and shared your wonderful experience with us.
Thanks a lot, Shashank. Like it was a really good podcast, and thanks a lot for inviting me.
So this is what I had for all of you in this amazing podcast. I'm pretty sure you have enjoyed this entire session and loved the experience of Bhakti, whatever she has shared of moving from service to product-based companies. So if yes, and you found it informative, make sure to give a like in the big numbers and let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section as well. And if you are new to the channel, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon. And don't forget to enroll yourself in the upcoming new batch of data engineering bootcamp, which is Data Engineering 4.0 with AWS, a very extensive basic to advanced and a zero to hero kind of bootcamp for all the aspiring data engineers, where everything will be in the live classes and with the dedicated placement assistance. So hurry up, enroll today. The link has been given in the description, or you can visit www.growdataskills.com, and don't forget to avail the early bird offer valid for only 50 users. Make sure to use the coupon code FIRST50. If you have any doubt, any query, make sure to call or drop a WhatsApp message on this given number. I will see you all in the live classes very soon. Till then, just keep exploring data.